What is Dark Times rules like? We're going to go over that in a minute. But first, some people have asked some questions. What is the setting like? Yes, it's gritty. The power level, people can be somewhat powerful. Not as powerful as a 4-color superhero like the Avengers or the Justice League. More smaller time, more like maybe the New Warriors, if you're familiar with any kind of Marvel comics. Yes, they can, if they're strong enough, if they put a lot of points into their powers, they might be able to toss a car. I've been told several times our system, which is based off of our previous system, Spy and Wicked Packs, but this one here has been adjusted to fit the setting. But it's the same core basic mechanics. And some people have told me that they feel the story is, or the game is very playable in a storytelling aspect and has just the right amount of crunch to rules. So it's got just enough detail to make it interesting and make it logical without being too narrative and too free-flowing. So it's kind of a mixture of old school and new school. We're going to go over how the character is laid out here before we do anything else. So we have her name, her tag name, which is Ion, her archetype, which is Blaster, her corporate DNA strand, which she was produced by Xander Chemicals. And if you can see here, it gives her +5 power points and +1 to the many human points that you use to spend it by your powers. These have already been figured in. Next we have our attributes. I apologize, it says primary stats. We have strength, reflex, charisma, health, willpower, and intelligence. If you've played any kind of RPG, you know what these are. The range goes from 1 through 5, 1 being really weak, 5 being very high. Now in this game here, of course, with superpowers, they can go beyond that. Highest you can go is 9 with that. Next we have derived stats. We have hit points. Again, if you've played any kind of RPG, you probably know what a hit point is. In other words, you lose all those and you are dead. Heal rate, that's what your heal rate is without any kind of medical attention over a period of time. Your move rate, which is by ground, she moves 11 yards per turn. Damage bonus, this is for melee and hand-to-hand. Damage bonus of 1 die 3. Scene points, which we will cover. Our scene point counters look like this. Well, they will be looking like this here. Too much glare there, I apologize. Anyways, these tokens here are spent for various things. We'll go over that in a minute. I'll just lay these out right here. She has 3. Then we have energy points. Certain powers require a certain amount of expenditure of energy. Once your energy is used up, you're drained and your powers are kind of tapped out until you recharge. Experience, obviously she has none right now, and TLR, that means technological limit range. So she has 20, but she's already used 3 due to the nanoware, which we'll cover here in a minute. Languages, in this game here we don't treat languages so much as a skill that you roll, it's just that you have an understanding, and it ranges from 1 through 4. 1 means you can speak a few words, 2 you can speak it but it's kind of broken up, 3 you can speak it conversantly but you do have an accent, and 4 you can pass for a native. So obviously she's good with English, Street, and Russian. Next we have talents. Most characters, if you spend your adjustment points and get a complication, you can have up to 4 talents. 3 of which at the max have to come, not have to, but can come from your archetype talents. And then there's a list of general talents, so at least one of them, if you have 4, has to come from general talents, which those are pretty good. And with her, she has, let's see, extra battery, which gave her a +10 to her power points. So her power points are 39, which is actually pretty good. And then we have move and blast, which means she can move and fire with her energy blast with no penalties for movement. Alternate identity means she has once per game she can whip up some alternate identity that is completely legit and can pass for any kind of security. Warrior sense, which means she gets a bonus to her initiative, which we'll cover in combat. Complication, she has an enemy, the Hazmat Killers, which is a cyber gang. Then we have skills. Now you'll notice on here they go in die types and multiple die types. So let's cover that here, okay? Now, the way it works is, if you have a D6, the die type represents your education level. So a D6 represents you're barely educated. A D8 represents you're fairly well educated. And a D10 means you're very well educated at it. Now, the amount of dice you toss is your level of proficiency. So, if you can see here, she has a 1d8 in brawling, which means she's somewhat skilled at it. She just doesn't do it all the time because she's a blaster. And if you look back over here on her, okay, her best thing is obviously her energy blast. She has 3d10, which means she uses it quite frequently and she's quite skilled at it. So watch out for her, don't piss her off. So the way the game works is here, as far as skill resolution. So let's say, for example, on her, let's pick corporate knowledge here. She has a 2d8 in it, which means she uses it somewhat often and she's fairly well educated. So GM will call for her to roll that. She'll take 2d8, roll it, and she has a 6 and a 4. So what you do is you pick the highest one, because obviously the more proficient you are, the better chance you have of hitting a higher number. So you always have one dice you're keeping, no matter how many dice you're rolling. So she has a 6. In this case here, the GM is going to ask for her to add it to her intelligence, and it's a 9. Now let's say, for example, her target number, which will go right over here, okay? Let's say he called for a 9, because it was challenging. Well, she got it right on the money, okay, which was a tough call. Not tough, but challenging. Anyway, so she got a 9 or better. Now let's say, for example, on this die type, okay, let's say she got a 2 and a 4, okay? So she got a 2 and a 4. Obviously the 4 is the highest one. Added to intelligence means it's only a 7 or higher. Uh-oh, she failed it by 2. Now let's say this is a very, very important thing and she doesn't want to screw this up. What you can use then, you can use actually one of your scene points to give yourself a bonus. Okay? So this here gives her +5. So that makes it 7 plus 5 to a 12, so obviously she gets it easily. Now let's cover the scene points real quick as well. That's one of the ways you can use a scene point. So if you blow your roll and you want to add 5 to it, you can blow that after you roll. The other way you can roll it, or use your scene points, is if you, say for example, hit the person, but you did really crappy damage. So you spend a point after you rolled your damage and you can say, okay, I'm doing maximum damage. The other way you can do it, let's say you get hit by some damage and you take a fair amount. Let's say she takes 20 hit points, that's beyond her armor, okay? She has 42, that's gonna hurt her real bad. She don't wanna take that. So instead, she can spend 1 point to cut that damage she just took in half. Or she can spend 2 points and it misses her completely. Now being that she only has 3 scene points, she's gonna burn through those fast. Now these can be recovered throughout the play of the game. The GM can award them for, completing certain tasks or scenes within the game, or if they feel they're doing really good role playing. The max you can have scene points is 6. And finally, the last way you can spend a point is, let's say for example, you want to spend it because you need to alter the story to some small degree. Let's say there's a guard, you're not very good at fast talking, and you can say, okay, I'm going to spend my point, and I'm going to tell a GM, okay, listen, that guy, he and I go way back. We were childhood friends. And the GM might say, okay, let's go with that. So you can alter the story a little bit to some degree and be a GM for a short bit. Okay, so that's roughly how you spend scene points. Now on to powers. Now you notice it says powers, nano, and cyber. When you get your metahuman points, you're going to have these to spend on any one of those things. Now powers obviously are a little bit more powerful, for lack of a better word, than the nano or cyber. Nano is much more sleek, less obvious, and some of these can replicate some of the powers. Not quite as good as the normal powers, but they can come close. And finally, cyberware. That's a little bit more accessible to most people, even on the streets, and it doesn't replicate everything that the powers can do. Now, Ion, she has, for her abilities, Energy Blast, Flight, and Nano. Nanoware, which is dermal hardening. So for her, she has Energy Blast, range 50, damage. Now she can do either 3 different levels. She can do like the light, medium, or heavy. She bought all of those levels. So if she was hitting some thug and she didn't want to spend all of her power, she could just like say, okay, I'm going to do medium blast, which is only 2 points of power when she blasts them. Okay, so let's say, for example, she's fighting the hazmat killers here. Now these guys, they're pretty tough. They're a cyber gang, okay? They're no pushovers. They actually do have some dermal armor, okay? And armed up to the teeth. These guys are hardened killers. But their hit points are 16, which doesn't sound, great. But compared to a civilian, now this here's a civilian, they might have, say, 10 hit points. So they're a little tougher than your average citizen, okay? Plus they're armed to the teeth, got some skill, and got some dermal armor. So let's say, for example, she goes to try and hit these guys here, okay? So she's going to use her energy blast skill, which is 3 die 10. So we'll roll that. So she got a 9, a 6, and a 1. Obviously, we're going to keep the 9. And this here is going to be added to her reflexes. Now, her reflexes is a 4. So, to try and hit with range, just roughly without any kind of huge modifiers and going into too much detail, the base for her to hit them would be their reflex, which is 2. That's civilians, I apologize. To hit the hazmat killers, the reflex is a 3, plus 5 is an 8. And let's say, for example, she was at short range, so there's no modifier whatsoever. So she only needs to get an 8 or better. And let's say there's no other modifiers. So she hits, obviously. So you can roll on the location table if she didn't call for a shot. In this case here, she will. She'll roll, and 57 she rolls. Okay, now 57 is, holy crap, okay. She hits him square in the heart. One more point over would have been the torso easily. Anyways, so she hits him right in the heart. Bad place to get hit. So he is hit for 2 die 12 damage. So we will roll 2 die 12 damage and see what she comes up with. Okay, that's kind of crappy, 6. Now, because it's here and they have dermal armor, that would stop it. So let's say, for example, she's pissed, she wants to take him down, she's going to spend her scene point. All of a sudden it turns this into a 12 and the other one into a 12. So we now have 24. So 24 minus the 8, do math in the head, would be 16. Holy cow, guess what? He only has 16 hit points. He is out. He's done. Actually, he's more than done because it hit the heart. Whatever gets through is times 2. Yeah, she pretty much shot him right through the heart and killed him. So maybe he shouldn't have messed with her. Anyways, that's kind of it roughly. There's much more details to it, but for those of you who know the basic mechanics of things and how things work, that's how the game works. If you have any more questions, feel free to drop us a line, ask us questions, shoot us emails. We do like emails. Like us and subscribe to us on YouTube or on Facebook. And we're working on a giveaway for people who actually are subscribing and joining our Facebook. So do that and you might get something in the mail. Thank you very much and look forward to hearing from you. Take care.